I still remember the day my life quietly changed. It wasn't marked by shouting or a sudden argument. It was soft, like a shadow slipping across the room. My children, the ones I had raised with so much love, looked at me in a way I had never seen before. Their eyes were kind, in a polite way, but there was a distance, a hesitation. And then my daughter-in-law, smiling that sharp, careful smile, said something I would never forget. "You'll be better off without us, Erin. The nursing home, it's where you should be." I blinked. I wanted to cry, to ask why, to protest, but my voice simply trembled and failed me. Instead, I nodded, forcing a small, polite smile. Inside, a storm was rising. Sadness, confusion, disbelief, but on the outside, I stayed calm. I walked through the quiet hallway of my home that evening, touching the walls as if they would tell me they were still mine. The house smelled faintly of old wood and vanilla, the scent of my life before it shifted. Every corner held memories, laughter, arguments, small victories, birthdays. Now, it felt different, hollow. I wondered if my children knew what they were doing. Did they realize that this wasn't just a place? It was my life, my home, the place I had nurtured every day for decades. I tried to understand their point of view. I really did. Maybe they thought they were helping. Maybe they thought I needed care they couldn't provide. But as I packed my few belongings, folding my favorite sweaters and tucking old letters into a box, I realized something else. I felt invisible, like the years I had given to them, the nights I had stayed awake, worrying. The meals I had prepared didn't matter anymore. And yet, even with that ache in my chest, a strange calm settled over me. I could have screamed, I could have argued, but I didn't. I knew that anger would not serve me. Instead, I allowed myself to feel the sadness fully, to let it wash over me in quiet waves. I told myself, maybe this is not the end. Maybe there is still a way to find the truth. That night, I sat by the window, watching the sun dip behind the trees. The house was silent. My children had gone to bed upstairs, their footsteps light, unconcerned. I held a photograph of my son in my hands, the little boy who had once clung to my legs, the young man I had loved fiercely, and I whispered, softly, "I hope one day you'll see me again, really see me." I didn't know it yet, but this moment, the polite dismissal, the quiet betrayal, was only the beginning. 2 years would pass before the truth unfolded, before the fragile layers of family, loyalty, and deception would finally be revealed. But in that first evening, sitting alone in my empty home, I made a small promise to myself. No matter what happened, I would not let this define me. I would survive. I would witness the truth, and somehow, I would be heard. My name is Erin Holland, and for most of my life, my family was everything to me. I had raised my 2 children with love and care, just like my mother had done for me. Our home was always warm, filled with the smell of home-cooked meals, and the sound of laughter, even on ordinary days. My son Michael had always been quiet but thoughtful. He loved reading and tinkering with gadgets, and I used to spend hours watching him, feeling proud of the man he was becoming. My daughter Emma was more lively, full of energy, and always smiling. I never imagined a day would come when these same children would look at me and treat me like I was a stranger. Life was simple but happy. I had a small garden in the backyard, a cozy kitchen where I baked bread every Sunday, and a living room where we gathered to talk about our day. Those walls had seen so many memories, birthdays, school recitals, holidays, even arguments that seemed serious at the time but were always followed by hugs and apologies. My husband had passed away years ago, and while I had mourned deeply, I poured my love into my children. They were my world. Yet, as the years passed, small changes began to appear. Michael and Emma started to visit less often, citing work, studies, or friends. Phone calls became shorter, sometimes ending abruptly. At first, I thought it was normal. Children grow up, life becomes busy. But deep down, I felt a quiet sting, like a soft whisper I couldn't ignore. Then came my daughter-in-law Clara. She was polite, well-mannered, and seemed kind at first. She smiled when she entered the room, always complimenting my cooking, asking about my day. But slowly, I noticed a subtle tension, a tone in her voice, a glance exchanged with Michael that felt like a secret. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I might be imagining things. I remember one evening, the 3 of them sat in my living room, and Clara casually mentioned, "Erin, maybe it's time you consider a place where you can be cared for properly. You'll be safer, and we won't have to worry." I forced a small laugh, but my heart sank. I tried to explain that I was fine, that I loved my home, my garden, my life just the way it was. Michael nodded politely but said nothing. Emma avoided my eyes entirely. That was the moment I realized something had shifted. My family was quietly, slowly pulling away, and I didn't know why. Even then, I wanted to believe they were acting out of concern. I told myself, maybe they are just trying to help me. But in the quiet hours of the night, I felt the emptiness, the subtle betrayal. My home, once so alive with love, felt fragile, like a glass sculpture that could shatter at any moment. And so, as the days passed, I braced myself. I didn't know it yet, but this gentle, careful distance was the start of a much larger story, one of hurt, of secrets, and of a truth that would take 2 long years to surface. If you're following Erin's story and want to see what happens next, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every story matters, and your support helps bring these real-life journeys to life. As weeks passed, the distance between us grew more noticeable. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet, subtle, almost invisible at first. But I felt it in the way Michael and Emma spoke to me, the way Clara always seemed to steer conversations, and the way my home, once filled with warmth, began to feel empty. Meals became shorter, visits became rarer, and the laughter that had once filled these rooms seemed to have disappeared entirely. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen, washing dishes while the rain tapped gently against the window. The sound was calming, yet I felt a heavy weight pressing on my chest. Michael walked in, holding a stack of papers. He hesitated for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. "Ma, we've been thinking," he said slowly. "Maybe it's better for you if you stay somewhere. You can get more help. You'll be safer." I paused, gripping the edge of the sink. "I'm fine, Michael. Really, I can take care of myself." My voice shook, though I tried to hide it. Clara entered the kitchen behind him, smiling in that polite, careful way that made my stomach twist. "Erin," she said softly, "we only want what's best for you. You won't have to worry about anything. You'll be comfortable, and we'll visit often." Her words were gentle, but I heard the unspoken part. "You're in the way. Your life is inconvenient. We don't want you here." I swallowed hard, trying to maintain calm. "I appreciate your concern, but this is my home. My life is here. I don't need anyone to take it from me." They didn't respond. They just exchanged glances, the kind of glance that told me the decision had already been made. After that, I noticed little things: rearranged furniture, letters I hadn't opened being set aside, subtle changes that made the house feel less like mine. I would try to speak, to ask questions, but my words seemed to fall into silence. Emma avoided eye contact entirely, her smile gone. She used to come running to hug me when I cooked her favorite meals. Now, she barely spoke to me. I started keeping a small journal, writing every feeling, every moment that seemed off. It helped me make sense of the quiet betrayal, of the way my children seemed to forget the years of love. The nights I stayed awake worrying about them, the sacrifices I had made, I asked myself again and again, how did it come to this? How did my family, the ones I trusted most, begin to drift so far away? And yet, despite the growing tension, I refused to leave without understanding the truth. I wanted clarity, not confrontation. I wanted to see their hearts, to find out why this gentle push toward a nursing home had begun. Every day, I reminded myself, I will stay strong. I will observe, and one day, I will understand. The small, quiet conflicts of those days were building to something larger, something that would change everything. Little did I know, the moment that would shatter my illusions was closer than I thought, a moment that would make me realize just how far my children had drifted, and how carefully the truth had been hidden from me. The day it all became real is etched in my memory like a photograph I cannot forget. I had come home from a short walk in the park, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind. The house was quieter than usual, too quiet, the kind of silence that makes your heart race and your chest tighten. Something felt off, though I couldn't yet put my finger on it. As I stepped inside, I noticed the living room had been rearranged. My favorite chair, the one by the window where I spent countless hours reading, was gone. The family photos on the mantel had been replaced with generic frames, empty and cold. A sudden chill ran down my spine. I walked slowly toward the kitchen, where I found Clara sitting with Michael and Emma. Their expressions were calm, almost rehearsed. "Erin," Clara began, her voice soft and controlled. "We need to talk." I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "About what?" I asked quietly. Michael spoke next. We think it's time you moved. We've found a place for you, a nursing home. You'll be cared for properly, and we can visit whenever we like. I felt my stomach drop. I had seen this coming, yes, but hearing it, knowing it was real, cut deeper than I imagined. My home, my life. You're just going to take it away from me, I whispered. Emma didn't answer. She looked down at her hands. There was no fight in her, no explanation, just a quiet acceptance of something I couldn't yet understand. I tried to reason. I don't need anyone to take care of me. I can manage. I've always managed. Clara reached out, placing a hand on mine, but it felt cold, unnatural. Erin, this is for your own good. You'll be safe. You won't have to worry about anything anymore. That was the moment I understood. The moment the subtle betrayals, the quiet distancing, the rearranged furniture, all of it came together. This wasn't about care. It was about control, about convenience. My children, the ones I had poured my heart into, had made a decision without me. They had decided I no longer belonged in the life I built. I felt a deep, quiet sorrow, a pain that words could not capture. But amidst that pain, something else stirred, a spark of determination. I knew that I could not let this happen without knowing why, without understanding the truth. I would not be pushed aside, forgotten, or silenced. That evening, after they left for the night, I sat alone, in my empty living room. I held a photograph of Michael and Emma when they were children, smiling and carefree. I whispered to myself, I gave you my love, my life, and I will find out why this happened. I will see the truth. This was my turning point. The day I realized that survival isn't just about the body, it's about holding on to your dignity, your voice, and your truth, no matter how quietly it must be fought for. If you want to follow Erin's journey and see how the truth finally comes out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more real-life stories that touch the heart and inspire hope. After that turning point, I began to see everything with new eyes. The quiet moments of betrayal, the little changes in the house, the cold politeness, it all started to make sense. I realized that my children, the people I had trusted most, were not intentionally cruel, but they were guided by choices that I had not agreed to, decisions made without me. I spent days reflecting, sitting by the window, listening to the wind rustle the leaves outside. I thought about the life I had lived, the love I had given, and the patience I had practiced. I didn't want anger or resentment to rule my heart. I wanted understanding, even if it was hard to find. Then one day, a letter arrived. It was from Michael. He wrote that he hadn't realized how much his words and actions had hurt me. He admitted that Clara had suggested the nursing home, and he had gone along with it without thinking about my feelings. Emma had apologized to him, saying she didn't know how to speak up against her husband. Reading their words, I felt a wave of mixed emotions. Relief, because there was acknowledgement. Sadness, because it had taken so long. And love, because even in their mistakes, they still cared in their own way. I realized that families are not perfect. They stumble, they make choices we don't agree with. But at the core, the bonds of love remain. I invited them over that weekend. The house felt different as they walked in, hesitant but willing. I didn't scold them. I didn't demand explanations. Instead, I let them see me calm, firm, and still the mother they had always known. We talked, slowly, carefully. I shared how their words had hurt, how the quiet betrayals had shaken my trust. They listened, truly listened, and I could see the regret in their eyes. It wasn't about punishment or blame. It was about connection, about understanding, about repairing the fragile threads that had been stretched so thin. By the end of the afternoon, there were hugs, tentative, yes, but real. For the first time in months, our home felt like home again. I also realized something important for myself. I didn't need anyone else's permission to live my life. My home, my garden, my memories, they were mine, and no one could take them away without my consent. I had found my voice again, and it felt strong, steady, and warm. The resolution wasn't perfect. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I knew it would take patience and love to fully heal. But I had taken the first step. I had seen the truth, I had spoken my heart, and I had been heard. That, I realized, was more important than anything else. The lesson I learned was quiet but powerful. Even when betrayal feels overwhelming, understanding and love can still mend the most fragile bonds. And sometimes, the strongest courage is not in fighting, but in standing firm in your truth while keeping your heart open. As the weeks turned into months after that difficult period, I began to feel a quiet sense of peace. The tension in our home had softened. Michael and Emma still made mistakes. Who doesn't? But there was a new awareness in their eyes, a willingness to listen, a care I hadn't seen for a long time. I realized that healing doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow process, like the sun gradually rising over the horizon, warming everything in its path. I spent a lot of time reflecting on what had happened. Betrayal by the people you love most leaves a mark, yes, but it also teaches you who you truly are. I learned that I could survive the quiet abandonment, the cold politeness, and the choices made without my consent. I discovered that my worth was never defined by what my children or anyone else thought of me. It came from within, from the life I had built, the love I had given, and the strength I had nurtured over decades. There were still moments when sadness would creep in, a glance, a memory, or even the silence of the house. But now, those moments were gentle reminders, not chains. I understood that forgiveness is not about forgetting or excusing. It's about freeing your own heart from the weight of anger and resentment. By forgiving, I could move forward, with dignity, with calm, and with love. I often think about that first day Clara suggested the nursing home, how my children quietly went along, and how I chose to stay silent in the face of my own pain. I could have reacted with anger, shouted, or demanded my way, but I didn't. I chose patience. I chose reflection. And in that choice, I found power, a quiet, steadfast power that no one could take from me. My advice to anyone watching this story is simple. Trust your heart, but also trust your voice. Stand firm in your truth, even when it feels like the world is moving against you. Families are complicated, and people make mistakes, but love and understanding can survive the hardest trials if we allow them. I look out of my window now, watching the sunlight filter through the trees, the garden I planted still flourishing, and I smile. Life isn't perfect. My story isn't perfect, but it is mine, and that, I've realized, is everything. If Erin's journey has touched your heart or made you think about the power of love, patience, and understanding, then please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life emotional stories. Every story matters, and your support helps us continue sharing voices like Erin's, stories of resilience, hope, and quiet strength. In the quiet mornings, when the sun streams softly through my curtains, I often find myself reflecting on everything that has happened. The years, the love, the betrayal, the misunderstandings, they all swirl together in my mind like pieces of a puzzle I am slowly learning to fit together. I realize now that life isn't about avoiding pain or disappointment. It's about how we respond to it. And that, I think, has been my greatest lesson. For so long, I had measured my life by the happiness of my children, by the approval of those I loved. I thought my worth was tied to their smiles, their successes, their presence. But when the day came that they quietly decided I should leave my home, I understood something profound. My worth has always been mine, independent of anyone else's choices or actions. That realization didn't come all at once. It grew slowly, like a flower in spring, fragile at first, then strong enough to hold its own against the wind. I also learned to see people in shades of gray. Michael and Emma weren't villains. Clara wasn't evil. They were humans, making choices based on fear, convenience, or misunderstanding. And I had to accept that love sometimes involves letting go of expectations. It means understanding that others will falter, that their perspective is limited, and that their decisions, even when hurtful, are not always meant to destroy. Sitting in my garden, I often think about the quiet moments, the letters I kept, the afternoons spent baking bread, the laughter that once filled the halls. Those memories are treasures. They remind me that life is composed not just of the big moments, but of the small, everyday gestures of love, patience, and presence. And even when those moments are shadowed by hurt, they remain. They continue to exist, untouched, waiting to be acknowledged and cherished. Sometimes, I catch myself smiling when I hear the distant footsteps of my children in the hallway or the soft knock at the door. The fear, the tension, the uncertainty, it has softened. There is a quiet trust growing again, slow and tentative, but real. I've learned that healing is not linear. It's not immediate. It comes in small doses, in acts of listening, understanding, and forgiveness. And it comes when we stop trying to control what others do and focus instead on our own hearts, our own truth. I want anyone listening to remember this. Life will challenge you. People you love may hurt you. sometimes unintentionally, sometimes out of ignorance. But your spirit, your dignity, your capacity to forgive and understand, those are yours to hold on to. They are your power, your refuge, and your guide. Even as Erin Holland, the woman who once felt invisible in her own home, I am learning that my story isn't defined by betrayal. It's defined by resilience, by patience, and by the quiet strength that allows a heart to remain open, even after it has been wounded. The years have passed, and looking back, I see everything more clearly now. The sadness, the quiet betrayals, the moments when I felt invisible in my own home, they all shaped me, taught me, and ultimately made me stronger. I've learned that life doesn't always unfold the way we expect. Sometimes, the people we love most make choices that hurt us deeply, whether intentionally or not. But even in that hurt, there is room for understanding, for compassion, and for healing. I remember the first day I truly felt at peace again. It wasn't dramatic. There were no grand gestures, no sudden reconciliations. It was quiet. Michael came to the garden with a small bouquet of flowers he had picked himself, and Emma quietly joined him. There were apologies, yes, but more than that, there was an acknowledgement, a recognition of what had been done, and a promise to do better. We sat together on the old wooden bench, the rain gently tapping on the leaves above, and I realized something essential. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It doesn't make the pain disappear, but it allows the heart to breathe again, to open, and to rebuild what was once broken. I smiled at them, softly, letting them see that I was still me, Erin Holland, the mother who had loved fiercely, endured quietly, and now stood tall with her heart intact. In these moments, I also reflected on myself. I had found my voice again. I had reclaimed my home, my dignity, and my sense of self. I had discovered that even when life pushes you to the edge, you can stand firm. You can survive betrayal. You can find love again, not just in others, but in yourself. And so, I carry forward with a gentle strength. I water my garden. I bake my bread. I watch the sun filter through the windows, and I live each day fully, quietly grateful. My family is still imperfect, but our bond is real, growing slowly, patiently, like the trees outside my window. We are learning together, step by step, to be present, to listen, and to cherish one another. If there is one thing I want anyone listening to take away from my story, it is this: life will challenge you, and people will sometimes let you down, but your heart, your courage, and your capacity to forgive are yours to hold on to. They are the light that guides you through the darkest times, and the strength that allows you to embrace hope again. If Erin's journey has touched your heart or inspired you in any way, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to continue sharing these real-life stories, stories of resilience, love, and quiet strength that remind us all that even after hardship, hope remains.